Now, President Bola Tinubu has asked the new ministers to meet the expectations of Nigerians irrespective of their geopolitical zones. He wants them to shore up the socio-economic development. In an exclusive interview with Arise News, some of the ministers conveyed a mix of eagerness and appreciation for the new jobs. They spoke about the weighty responsibility of safeguarding the administration's dedication to the renewed hope agenda, while Dele Alake positioned himself as the president's best choice to lead the solid minerals ministry. The woman heading the labor ministry, Nkiruka Onyejosha, underscored the significance of reforms and collaboration.
My portfolio has been the major shocker in this entire cabinet, assignment of portfolios and all of that. However, I can tell you authoritatively, it's deliberate. My portfolio is deliberate. Now, everybody knows, at least those who have an analytical mind and who are following global trends in economic development, hydrocarbons are going down. Oil, petroleum is going down globally in the economic sector. Now, people are moving away from those areas. Now you have electric cars, you have alternative fuel, you have gas, you have everything, which means our over-reliance on oil is going to be detrimental to the growth of the Nigerian economy moving forward. So what is the next bet? It is solid minerals. That's the next oil of Nigeria. Now, with this critical sector in mind, who will the president put there? The person he trusts most, the person who has a passion in his own estimation, who has the sense of responsibility, the knowledge, the vision, the courage to drive that sector and harness those critical resources for the benefit of Nigeria. And that's why I'm here.
Great. So what should Nigerians be expecting from your ministry?
The Nigerians should be expecting a departure from the norm. Everybody knows what's been happening in that solid mineral sector of the economy. It's been frittered away. Nigeria has been shortchanged. We've been receiving the shorter end of the stick. There is going to be a critical departure from that norm. But I'm not going to reveal the strategies and tactics right now.
To serve one's country is a special opportunity, it's a special duty. And in a country of about 220 million people, brilliance is not enough. So I feel extremely privileged and grateful to Mr. President.
What should we be expecting from you?
A whole lot. A society where technology can lift us to where we should be ideally. And a society where government services becomes a lot more empathetic. And you see that's what Mr. President has been talking about.
Tourism is about all of us, about our looks, our behavior, what we have to offer, what we have to offer internally and what our externals are expecting to offer. And it's going to involve every single person from the top to the bottom, and we can all do it. And we'll seek everyone, we're going to start seeking everyone's support.
We are going to bring legislative experience to bear, looking at the labor laws and to make sure that there are no infractions anymore. Because over the years I've had this experience that it's not about churning out laws, it's about implementation. So you're going to see implementation of Nigerian laws that have been passed over the years, starting from the quota system that has made our youth to be outside employment, because most people come here, flew their company, they bring their people and they employ their people, and their people are not checking them. And so we are going to ask for our quota system. Look at our quota system and ask for our quota for our Nigerian youth, because basically we are going to make sure that our youth are removed from the forest and from the streets.
Well, let's bring in Kassim, Afegbua, media consultant and a member of the All Progressives Congress. Good to see you and thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure.
As always, you've seen the ministers and everyone all raring to go. And also, by the way, we also had Nyesom Wike also. He was the very first to have addressed the people of the FCT. What's the big news in all you've had so far? Because Nigerians are asking that these ministers should by now be about what the agenda is. And in setting the agenda, we started with General Kukashika talking about security. But beyond all of that, knowing that the country's economic was a pain in the life of every Nigerian, what ministry do you think should be the first that Nigerians should start feeling?
I think, thank you very much for having me. I think it's not about what ministry should Nigerians should start feeling. I think it's just a matter of, creating a platform for a conscious, interrogation of the challenges confronting us, and telling every ministry to key into the Renew Hope agenda, because that was the plank upon which the president campaigned for elections. And in that Renew Hope agenda, there are quite a number of programs, policy, projections that will help, to address some of the challenges, existential threats to our country, area of insecurity, economic conundrum, our health sector, the education sector, infrastructure and all of that. There are quite a number of challenges, huge ones for that matter. And so I want Nigerians to pay more attention to the governors of the states. We are losing sight of that. They were given 5 billion naira recently. Today they are sharing 966 billion. That's almost a trillion, All this money is going to the state. There has to be complementary, efforts with federal government to address the peculiarities that confront us presently. Because we keep looking at federal government as the ombudsman, is the behemoth, so to speak. But we are losing sight of the kind of resources going. This is the first time. Last month they share almost about the same amount. This time they are sharing almost the same amount. So and this is the first time they are sharing that kind of amount because of the subsidy removal. So the impact must be felt across the states. So when you see some state government saying that they are putting signboard on bad roads because the federal government road, it doesn't address the issue.
So that we don't lose sight of this now.
Yeah.
Will that now come under the coordinating minister of the economy?
Yeah, coordinating minister of the economy, minister of finance and all of that. It's a huge responsibility. And the man who is invested with that responsibility is quite a tested technocrat. He's a sound and intellectually fecund mind. And so to that extent, I know he will address the issues. But again, there are no determinate, solutions to economic problems. Economic problems are purely a function of trial and error. If you try this method, it's not working well, you try another one. If you assemble 10 economists in this room to interrogate issues of economy and find solutions, they will come up with 10 different solutions, even though they are economists. Because they will see the issues from different perspectives based on what they think, will help them to navigate outside the murky waters of economic crisis. So for me, the Minister of the Minister of Finance is an economist. To complement that, you need an economist to preside over the CBN. Yes, because that kind of economists will be able to address a lot of monetary issues, fiscal issues, and understand projections. But these days you keep seeing all manners of people presiding over CBN. You have accountants, you have commercial bankers, and all of that. No, it should be purely, for an economist, because this is their purview. And so when you have a minister for finance that has economic background and is tested on that field, and they know him. He's been a former finance commissioner in Lagos State and he's been in the private sector. He's well known, he's well read, understand the issues. You need to complement that with the minister for the CBN governor that's also an economist, so that the two of them can operate at the same frequency and help to chart the roadmap for our finances and economic projections and what have you. But Nigeria, there are too many factors at play. So when you keep saying this, they will think that you have certain interests, but what would be good for us, because we have tested accountants, we have tested commercial bankers and all of that. It's all a matter of crisis, 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 you know, just like the issue of floating the naira, you know. When they saw that it's not working, naira was, the dollar was just going skyrocketing. They had to, you know, apply brakes and going to take a $3 billion loan so that they can cushion the effect and arrest the drift. Now you see dollar is coming down. Now is $1 to naira is 840 today. So from 980, you know, within 10 days. So those are the kind of injection you need to put in the process to this, but you need a proper economist to be able to read, you know, the algorithms properly.
You know, speaking of which, now you're talking about the dollar. Many still think that we need to really, you know, re-engineer and change the course of our industrial, you know, life, because it doesn't look as if anything is being done in that regard. So looking at what the renewed agenda of your party is bringing to the government of to the people, what do you expect to see in terms of the industry in the country coming back on stream?
If you look at that document, I think textile industry is one aspect that the TInubu government is going to reintroduce, because it's a huge, you know, employer of labor. And if you can get your textile industry right and other production of goods that are not necessarily, that are not so much needed, but Nigerians spend so much in importing. And that's why there's pressure on dollars. When you see dollar to buy in the markets, simple term, when you see dollar to buy, it won't be high in terms of comparison with your naira. That's a simple doctrine. So what you need to do to, you know, strengthen your naira is for you to go into production. But how do you go into production when the cost of production oftentimes is higher than what you can think of in terms of what those who are bringing the goods and services back home? I have friends who have factories, industries who are producing soap, producing toothpaste and all of that. They tell you that oftentimes when you train manpower for you to get their mandate and, you know, loyalty to remain with you in your company, is a problem. When you take them overseas to train, by the time they are coming back, they work with you 6 months, they jet out. All the money you spent on them, gone. You have to be going back again. Then electricity, another crucial area that the federal government must look into. And I know that President TInubu will want to make a statement in that respect. And now that he has bifurcated the oil and gas sector to have oil and gas, gas is the new attraction. From gas, you go into renewable energy and all of that. So you must diversify. You must begin to look at new areas where you can get the kind of, you know, thing you want to do for the country to begin to appreciate you. Nigerians are very easy to govern.
When you talk about diversification, sorry, Kassim, talking over you, you know, diversification, let's quickly throw in the Ministry of Solid Mineral and Blue Economy. What are the expectations from these two ministries?
Well, the solid mineral is incidentally, even oil is gradually fading out, but gas is still a huge resource. Now, if you talk about solid minerals, you have gold, you have uranium, you have bauxite, you have limestone, you have so many of them in Nigeria. But how much of these are being exploited holistically to actually attract foreign exchange? How much of it? You see, people will tell you stories about how there's armed banditry in Zamfara because of the gold deposit. There's gold in huge quantity in Kogi State. Is it being exploited? There's gold in Nasarawa, just our back on here. There's bauxite in that place. Have they been exploited in commercial quantity such that will attract foreign exchange? Because if you don't produce goods and services that can bring you dollars, there will continuously be pressure on your naira, and your naira will just be, you know, free falling, because it's not able to measure up. It's not a legal tender at your global business environment. And so you need dollar. It's the global currency, so to speak. And for you to attract dollar, you need to do goods and services. And this is what happened in 1984-85 when Nigeria would say, oh, Nigeria is 2 naira to $1 and all of that. It got to a point that federal government was tired of playing the role of Father Christmas. And so when Americans mop up their dollar, under James Baker as Secretary of Treasury in 83-84, if you now want to attract that dollar, you must produce goods and services. And that was why IBB regime tried to open up the system and all of that. And before you say Jack Robinson, say devalue the currency and all of that. No, it was just that we're living an artificial lifestyle at that period. Because everything is for that Christmas. Everybody wants to talk that federal government, federal government, federal government. What about the citizenry? What about the individuals? What is their role? It's not about what the country can do for you, but what you can also do for the country. So in addressing all of this, government must show determination, must show courage, must show boldness in exploiting even solid mineral. And you have a man, Dele Alaki, who has been appointed to man that he needs to come out with a feasibility study. You understand? Have it and always communicate with Nigerians, because once you do anything in secrecy, it will end in secrecy. So it's good for them to.
In all honesty, I think Nigerians have been so enterprising and have been, all out trying to do something for the country, and I think this is the time for the country to see what it can do for the everyday Nigerian. Because you spoke about power. If electricity, we've seen a lot of people in your community, they are all out there, no electricity, but they're still all out doing what they need to do.
Power must be fixed. Something tangible must be done in the power sector.
Yeah, let's talk. You're a resident of the Federal Capital Territory, and when the minister spoke, Wike, how did it go with you?
Well, it resonated well with me from the point of view of who Wike has been. We've known Wike since he came into public life. He was one time Minister of State of Education. Under him, the Almajiri schools were built, which were later abandoned by the succeeding government of President Buhari. And he is not a man who is not familiar with the expectations. And as FCT minister, he is going to be, I see another El Rufai. You may hate him or love him, but he do not take away his eyes from doing the job for which he's been recruited to do. Restoring the master plan of Abuja will also take him to do some urban renewal projects, some turnkey projects, and try and add to the beauty of the FCT. I keep telling people that the difference between Abuja and Washington, D.C. is because there's no tube. No tube service. There's nothing in Washington, D.C. It's the seat of government.
What about the cab system?
No, it's going to come about. No, don't forget that El-Rufai brought the black cab system here. It was not sustainable. After he left, some persons just discarded it. He may reintroduce it. The cab system, you can do shuttle train and all of that. People coming from Gwagwalada, Kubwa, Suleja, and all those to the city center. If we are able to build shuttle train, there will be less pressure on the roads. There are good road network in Abuja, all thanks to IBB and succeeding government, But the point is, Wike is familiar with what the expectations are. He has given set the tone for what to expect. Rearing cows, open grazing of cows. You are driving, you have to stop for cows to cross the road. At the heat of the day, right in the afternoon, in the city center. That shouldn't be what should be an attraction to us in this contemporary new age, for God's sake. And people should not bring sentiment, because I've been reading a lot of commentaries and all of that. People should not bring sentiments to this. We must learn to call a spade a spade. Let's go into ranching where cow can produce more than what they are producing now. By the time you make cow to trek such a long distance, the man is even tired. The cow as a man now is even tired to produce and to be of use to anybody.
And quickly, speaking of which, the demolition, people are saying it must be within the confines of the laws.
Of course.
Not what they call illegal demolition.
Vendetta. They say vendetta.
Beautiful.
No. See, let me tell you, there's nothing about vendetta. later.
No, there is.
No, wait. You see, people will always read minutes to this. Let me tell you the society we live in. If you are trying to do the right things, people will call you names. At the end of the day, they will live to enjoy it later. But because we are used to doing things the wrong way, people don't want to change. Our habits, it takes one day for you to develop an habit. Yeah? It takes you years trying to overcome that habit. So we need complete attitudinal reorientation of minds to the way and manner we approach public service, and the way and manner we also appreciate those who are ready to do things for us and who are ready to serve, in the interest of the overall well-being of the people. Abuja has been distorted, no doubt about that. Those who are architects, those architects that I know as my friends, they keep complaining about Abuja being distorted. Places that are green areas have been taken over by restaurants and what have you. You know, so many other things. And you see, if you don't sustain the master plan of Abuja, you may have problem of climate change effect. Flooding may start playing a role, and before you say Jack Robinson, then we are in another serious endemic situation. So I welcome Wike to FCT. I know he's a very sensible man. He's a very logical man. I know he's very bold and courageous. He will step on toes, stepping on toes the right way to get things done properly in the FCT.
And it's a place for us to say thank you, Kassim Afegbua, for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure all the time.
Well, do join us again tomorrow for another edition of Arise Prime Time. From me and the team is thank you and bye-bye.